you buy something, I give you points so you can go buy more, and I think customers are kind of like, huh, so you're just, like, honestly,
Yeah.
you're just actually getting me to buy more of your stuff, like what is there really that much in it for me? And again, and that's why a lot of loyalty programs have failed because customers didn't see the value.
Meghann York is global head of product marketing at SAP CX. And I think it might just benefit us before I ask Meghann to expand on that title a little bit, just to like let it hang in the air at what a giant remit that is, because that's a lot of stuff. If you know what SAP does, if you know what a global head of product marketing at a company like that might look like, I would say expand your mental definition by 10x and you're kind of almost there. And that's my thinking. What do you think, Meghann?
Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. Yes, it does feel like a big job at times, but I think the vast remit makes it exciting too. I think people who go into product marketing like me are people who have these crazy brains who want to be focusing on, different things every other minute of the day. So I'm lucky to love it.
Well, maybe it's the interesting word you threw in there was focusing, and I can't imagine being able to do that when you've got so much going on.
Yes, yes. Have to be pragmatic about time management. I'll tell you that.
Right, with lots of help, I'm sure.
Yes, wonderful team.
So maybe for just to set context for the rest of this conversation, explain to us um, you, what really that world really does look like and your role there. Like, what is it? What's a day in Megan's life look like?
Yeah, so let me explain the CX portfolio really quickly. So under the customer experience umbrella for SAP, we've got solutions for sales, service, marketing, commerce, and then customer data. So all of those live under the CX umbrella. And so what I get to do every day is work with our product teams, who are developing new innovations and products and bringing those to market. And our role is really to sort of have our finger on the pulse of what's going on with our potential customers, our customers, because in CX especially, that's really important. And I know we're going to talk about some of those things today. Um, what analysts are saying, what journalists like you are saying, and bring those insights back into the product team to say, these are the kinds of things that the market is wanting. So how can we make sure that we're developing products that the market wants to buy and will serve a real need? And then when those products come to market, I work with our of our go-to-market functions to make sure that our salespeople are really enabled on the product and can talk to their customers about it. That any of the work we're doing with journalists or analysts or things like that, the message is getting out in the market around those products, what we're developing, and then meeting with customers themselves and talking about kind of where we are right now and also our roadmap and where we're going in CX.
So it's too bad that this is just an audio medium here because I think, as you just explained what the kind of product portfolio looks like and what you're doing with all that, in my mind, I'm seeing an array of 10,000 little components that roll up to 1,000 larger components that roll up to a couple hundred big components. And there's Meghann and her team kind of,
Yeah,
working the
yeah.
wheels on all of it.
You're exactly right. Lots of different disciplines that we work in across a lot of different products. But like I said, I think people who go into our field like that. We like to sort of have our fingers in a lot of different things. But I will say, one of the things is actually being very, very knowledgeable about the space and very knowledgeable, about each one of the products. So I'm very lucky to work with some very brilliant people who, their expertise is very deep in all of those different, areas, sales or service or marketing or commerce.
For my part, I've been lucky enough to talk to some of your colleagues over the past couple of years, just touching base kind of like this and getting their perspective on the market space. And it's always been enlightening, and just really, really interesting. And I think, kind of again, just because of where you sit within SAP and because of where SAP sits in the broader customer engagement, customer ops ecosystem, you probably have a really unique perspective. You probably, I'm guessing here, because of that, you probably have a view to gaps and opportunities and trends and hurdles coming down the pike that a lot of people who are, down here with me at street level probably don't really get to see. And I think that, that's one of the reasons I've been looking forward to this conversation for so long. Um, but also because SAP and Emarsis have put out some research recently that I think is really interesting. It's the Global Customer Loyalty Index, if I got the title right.
You got it.
Um, I saw it last year, went through it with some of your colleagues last year, highlighted some of the trends that were becoming apparent then, but now there's data to kind of support what we thought we were going to see, we actually saw.
Yeah.
And I thought it'd be fun to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's been a very great experience to have this be, more of a longitudinal study year after year so that we can see those comparisons and see how, all of the market factors with, you know, new generations having money to come into the market to spend, that type of thing, and seeing how these types of things change.
Yeah, that new generation, I really want to spend some time on that new generation because a lot of people are wringing their hands on,
Yeah,
how to kind of just engage those folks. Well, if I may, I'd like to kind of cherry pick a couple of data points and just
sure.
talk them through with you.
Yeah,
So, highest level here, 57% of US consumers are no longer loyal to consumer products brands. And that's really disheartening if you're a brand marketer. I mean,
yeah.
what do you do with that? But I think before we even hit the record button on this conversation, you and I are talking about like, what does that definition mean? Because I think the definition really adds some important context here.
Sure, sure. So within the customer loyalty index survey, we have started to see types of loyalty emerge over the course of the many years that we've done it. And so I think that stat refers to what we call true loyalty. And that is, no matter what, I am going to buy this particular product. And I can't be swayed from buying this. And I think the fact of the matter is, really, no matter what market you're in, there are so many new products, so many new brands, so many new channels to reach people, popping up each and every day, that it is really hard for people to say, with all the choices I have, I'm only going to stick, with this one brand. And that's why, and of course, I have a feeling about this coming from my perspective, but I do think we have seen that people who deliver those really great customer experiences, who make your customers feel something about your brand in a really positive way, whether that's by the product features and benefits or the interactions they have with their company or what they see in the news media about you, is just becoming so much more important. And I think especially for CP brands, I think that um, this idea of going direct to consumer and building those direct to consumer relationships and your brand with them, is a little bit of a new thing. So, for so long, it was about selling the product through your partner channels and retailers and all of that. And going direct to consumer, especially with those brands, has just become more and more important over the years.
Do you feel like those brands that are kind of discovering D2C are fully awakened to what it means and how to execute it? Because they're two different things,
Yeah.
really.
Well, I mean, I think with anything, there's a real maturity curve, and so you've got some direct to consumer brands who are just, killing it. We've got Ferrero is one of our customers. It's a candy brand. And so they actually, we've got some great material on that's around how they have established really loyal customers and loyal advocates, people who are out there doing promotions on their behalf because they're so obsessed with like their favorite candies, and then some other brands are slower to get to the market. But I think that is a huge trend that we will see, is figuring out for many consumer brands how to crack that D2C code.
The 2025 Global XE Awards are now open for entries. The XEs are the first and only awards program dedicated to highlighting the innovative approaches to customer experience, CX, employee experience, EX, user experience, UX, UI, experience design, and experience architecture across verticals, retail experience, travel experience, healthcare experience, and more. We're working with a growing list of sponsors and partners around the world to honor the breakthrough approaches to creating experiences that drive results. The confluence of technologies and the convergence of business necessities are driving some of the most creative experiences ever, and we think it's time to give credit where credit is due. The 2025 Global XE Awards are now open for entries, and early bird pricing ends soon. To learn more, go to xeawards.com, that's EXXY awards.com, or visit customerland.net and click on the XE banner. I don't even think, based on the amount of stuff that I've got here that I want to get through with you today, I don't think we'll really get to another great topic, which I think would be huge, especially from someone like you, is how you educate um, brands and retailers that are kind of on the early part of that curve
Mhm.
as to what the possibilities are and then how to execute, because that's your business.
Yeah.
And I know there are a lot of people at various degrees of operational maturity there that would love to just be able to ask anonymously, like, hey, how do I do this? Because
Yeah.
it's daunting, and you know technology alone is this giant place where you can get so lost. But process, and then people, and
Mhm.
anyway, I'm
And
setting
as you
up.
can imagine, we have playbooks for days, so I
I'm
will be
sure of it.
happy to talk about that. But I think if we bring it back to the loyalty subject, and I had said, the 50% really reflects that true loyalty. We have actually seen increases in some different kinds of loyalty, which I think are really interesting, and then also tie into this new generation,
Yeah, let's talk about that.
yeah, so one of the areas we saw a real increase in is loyalty around connecting with the brand on your values and your like sort of belief and value-based loyalty. So especially, this new generation of consumers, they want to frequent brands and be loyal to brands who align with their values, especially around sustainability, but I think across a lot of different spectrums. And so, I mean, the flip side of that is, bad PR for your brand can be, quite detrimental when it comes to things, values and beliefs based types of stories. But the good news is that there are so many brands out there, I think, who have, they have their mission, they have their values, they have maybe the nonprofit or community organizations they're tied to, but it's such an internal thing, that people don't think about making those types of things a little bit more external. So when you talk about, advice, I think if you are a company that has those stated values, who does believe in those things, then I think that that's a great idea to use those things to try to connect with your consumers, who feel that way and who want to be loyal to the brands that believe in the things that they do. And I think maybe to brands who don't have that stated, that almost becomes, I mean, I don't want to say that it's disingenuous. It should be something that we're genuinely doing, having those beliefs and values,
Right.
but it also becomes a loyalty building tactic and a relationship building tactic with your customers to have those be a little bit more public than they used to be.
Right. Yeah, I'm thinking about a case over on our side of things. We had a client here, this was last year, that we'd been working with for several years that, because of some of their own internal policies, asked us what our anti-slavery position was and to see our
Wow.
documentation on it.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have very strong feelings about it, but it never put that into writing. And published it because we needed to.
Yeah.
sake of that client. But that's since then, it's become kind of a rallying point with us and some of the people we deal with is that, we've got to be able to do the right thing. So completely see the light on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in the flip side of, talking about the sustainability values based, kind of like that ethical loyalty, the places that we've seen go down a little bit, and I also think this is generational, is inherited loyalty. So, I shop at the brands that my parents shopped at or that we always, had in our
Right.
house. We've seen that go down. The other thing we've seen go down is silent loyalty. So people who, just silently shop with the same brands all the time. And I think both of those speak to, a generation of people who has, you know, lots more access to information than their
Sure.
parents did, possibly a lot more access to influencers who help them make decisions, and then a lot more channels to be very loud and proud or very I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, very negative about brands they either choose to interact with or brands that they choose to discontinue
Right.
interacting with. So
Right.
this is not, I think my grandparents maybe were the silent generation. This is definitely not it.
Right. Yeah. Highly vocal about what they think and feel.
Yes,
Sure,
yes,
sure. One statistic stood out here, and I've seen similar things in other research, but uh, I think it's just a point worth making here. Only 17% of consumers feel truly valued,
yeah,
leaving the majority want more. And that's it's a sad statement, but it's also a massive opportunity. I mean, it doesn't take that much. No, I take that back. It actually takes a lot. It doesn't take a lot of effort, but to do it at scale, to do it programmatically is a giant undertaking. But it's a huge opportunity. I mean, think about that. If only 17% of consumers, your consumers, feel valued on some level, there's work to be done for
yeah.
sure.
Absolutely, there is. And it's funny, again, I'm going to date myself, but I started working in the personalization space, 15 years ago, I think now. And it was interesting that back in those times, we started talking about delivering personalized experiences, and that meant product recommendations.
Right.
So, we've been saying right product, right channel, right time for all of the time that I have been doing this. But this idea of um, personalization going far past this idea of you should buy this product to, in a very privacy friendly way, because I think that's something that, we can't talk about personalization and loyalty without talking about privacy, but ensuring that um, you are getting that information from your customers and using it very wisely and using it in a way that benefits them. So, one of the things that I talk about a lot is this value exchange. We have consumers are very smart now. They are worried about what's happening to all of their data, and they're not going to give it up easily anymore. And so I think we do see customers though being willing to opt in, give you more information, give you their preferences when they see that you are using that wisely and you are using it to deliver something that really provides them value. And if they're not provided value, either with an incentive or an offer or whatever the case may be, um, then you're
Yeah.
not going to be able to hit that. Yep.
Right. Yeah. I think there's just so many opportunities there that presents. Um, we talk a lot about in this part of the world here about what loyalty really means, how to execute it at scale programmatically, and it almost always boils down to personalization. And there are a lot of
Yep.
different definitions of that. But right now at this moment in time, I think we're at a place where we're about to see things we've only if you're kind of full of yourself, you've been talking about it as if it existed already, but a little bit more realistic take is that, real genuine personalization, things that you could really personalize even in real time, it's possible now in certain realms, and it's about to be possible basically in every realm very, very soon. And just knowing something about SAP's product line, how you've kind of architected things to take advantage of these opportunities and leverage them, I think it'd be great fun and really eye-opening to have a separate discussion again. We're now on discussion number 3, by the way,
Sure. Hey, sign me up.
on what does personalization look like right now and what will it look like in a year? Because
Yeah.
I think there are going to be leaps and bounds of acceleration.
I completely agree with you. I mean, AI helps us, we've only scratched the surface, I think, on what AI can do. But again, it goes back to making sure that the AI is trusted and it's reliable, and it's keeping its privacy first AI and things like that. So, again, like you said, a different conversation that it has a wide range for potential, I think, abuse there if we don't do it right.
Completely agree.
But I agree. And I think that I think customers want that. You have brands out in the market who are setting the standard for what personalization looks like. And the expectation then is that any brand that people interact with are going to live up to that expectation. But that actually, connected a few dots for me as we were talking about it, because one of the things that we are seeing as far as loyalty goes is it is in the realm of personalization. So when a lot of loyalty programs were started many years ago, it was just very transactional. You buy something, I give you points so you can go buy more, and I think customers are kind of like, so you're just, like, honestly,
Yeah,
you're just actually getting me to buy more of your stuff, like is there really that much in it for me? And again, and that's why a lot of loyalty programs have failed because customers didn't see the value. They saw kind of what was in it for the brand, but not necessarily what was in it for themselves. And so then those programs, they didn't keep the success that they were hoping for. And so what we're talking more a little bit now is not just incentivized loyalty, but more of like experiential loyalty. So it sort of takes this idea of personalization and almost like a CRM, customer relationship management take on loyalty that we haven't had before, which is like truly understanding the customer, at their individual level and using AI to understand what is the best offer for them, what are the things that they are most interested in, whether that comes from you as a brand or a potential breadth of partner brands that you are teaming up with, on your loyalty programs and making sure that those people are getting the offers, um, that resonate and that mean something to them. And so, it's kind of a different way than even looking at the loyalty program itself, but also looking at the technology that makes those types of loyalty programs happen.
right. I mean, it's funny because every, say, 18 months, the loyalty industry has a new buzzword that everybody's
Yeah,
just like, this is what we're about. And if you've been around for as long as I have, quite long, you've heard them all.
yeah,
And some of them are just kind of buzzwords of the moment, but something you said keeps coming back, and that is experiential loyalty. Like
yeah,
it's no longer sufficient unless you're just the kind of brand that's a discounter, period. But that's
yeah,
it's no longer sufficient to make the relationship purely transactional. That doesn't produce any kind of relationship there.
yeah.
And yet I think it was probably about 4 or 5 years ago, people started saying, yeah, and we're producing experiential loyalty. I'm holding up air quotes here. You can't see this, but because at that point it didn't really mean anything. It was like
Exactly.
we're onto something, but we don't know what it is yet. And yet now I think there's a much broader understanding of the value of experiences and how you can produce them at scale. So
Yeah.
that's just really starting to happen, I think, in full force right about now. So
Yeah, and I think that that's why, maybe that is a buzzword, but at the crux of it, it really just means giving people experiences that they find valuable and will enjoy, and how to do that. And like I said, I think brands are also starting to realize that maybe that can't be just delivered directly from their brands. And so they're building these, quote, cohorts or partnerships across a lot of different, maybe, like-minded brands so that, it keeps what is it? Rising tides raises
There you
all
go. Yep. Uh-huh.
that that people can do that for each other with those loyalty partnership and loyalty programs.
So you just gave us the outline for conversation number 4.
Okay.
I'm sorry what this is about to do to your work schedule, but it's valuable stuff, and I think SAP really is the forefront of a lot of that thinking and certainly executing it. Um, if I may, I'd like to jump a little bit
Sure.
into the Gen Z conversation.
Okay.
Um, Not only is it fascinating because everybody in the world is trying to figure them out. I know brands that whose business uh, depends on understanding Brand Z. And I was talking to one of their lead research people. This is about 2 months ago. And literally in the conversation, she was wringing her hands as if, and this is a person who knows consumer research, but like, this is very, very strange not being able to deal with a group of people in any way like the group of people who came before them.
Yeah.
And there you have it, Gen Z. Uh,
Yeah.
but I'm looking through some of your research, and I love the way you've broken this down into red flags and green flags. In your words, not mine, SAP Mars's research revealed the top loyalty red flag pitfalls that could drive away Gen Z shoppers. And maybe I should just kind of read through them, and then we can talk
Yeah.
about them. Let's go through the reds first, and then we'll go through the greens, the fixes. So, number one of the reds, 27% treating personal data irresponsibly.
Mhm.
I knew that was in there. I would have suspected that it was a little bit further down the list, but hey, what do I know? Um, Number two, 27% sending excessive marketing communications. Number three, 26% sending charging for returns. Uh-oh. Number four, 18% failing to reward long-term customers. There you go. And number five, 14% failing to what personalize a shopping experience.
Yeah.
Could turn off Gen Zs, as if there wasn't enough to turn off Gen Zs.
Well, I'll tell you, I live with two Gen Zers, and so my experience comes from my research, but also just personally. I mean, this is a generation, I think, who has grown up in a very unpredictable time. They have grown up, I think, being treated, both from home and across the board and out in the world as the expectation that they will be treated like individuals. That they won't, they're not a generation that is like sort of wants to be part of the masses. Like we said, I think they have more access to information than, any other generation has had. They with, social media, their TikTok or their, TikTok and uh, their attention span, lots of research about attention spans being much smaller. And they also have grown up with brands who are doing this well.
Yeah.
For those of us of a certain age, like we were there for like the dawn of personalization and we're like, "Oh, this is cool." I can't believe that this is able to be happening. But this generation, I mean, some of this stuff is just table stakes to them
Right.
because
Exactly.
they've grown up with it. And so I think given all of those things, this is a very, very empowered generation. And I mean that very positively. Um, they have so much more choice than they ever had before. And so they feel very empowered to vet their decisions, to not feel like they have to just use the same brands that their parents or, other people in their lives have used. And they, like I said, they know what good looks like and they're going to expect that.
Right. I was talking to somebody else recently that was telling me the story of in their research, they saw that their discounts and kind of transactional rewards, if you will, were completely ineffective with Gen Z, like utterly, like didn't move the needle at all. And what they found out was after they went deeper was um, everybody that they surveyed was getting the deal, going to their phone within like maximum 13 seconds, had evaluated whether it was a good deal or a bad deal. Like,
Yeah.
real world, real time, I get a whole view of, I got a better deal over here. forget that. And it was a real eye opener. And
Yeah.
there's never been a generation that was that comfortable kind of just deciding, are you real or you're not? Are you good for me or you're not? And can do so at a moment's notice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so I think, but then I think then the privacy component is something really to be thoughtful of too. They are a very conscientious, very aware generation. And they, I mean, they see sending too many emails, I think, is an invasion of their privacy almost, being bothered by all of those, even if they are checking emails.
Yeah, if they even know what email is, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
I'm
email
thinking
trail.
of my kids that get annoyed when I text them too much, but that's
Yeah,
a different dynamic. Right.
exactly. But I mean, I think it's going to be really fascinating, really fascinating to see. And I think that they do, um, that we've been saying this forever too, but they do want a little bit more of that relationship. They know that that's possible. But back to the conversation around, ethics and social responsibility. This is, like I said, also a very conscientious generation, and so they want to frequent brands that they feel good about. I've seen studies of this generation, just I mean how important they think community service is, and in the workplace, wanting the expectation of having volunteer hours and things like that, like baked into their
Yep.
work life, and how important that is. So I mean, I think it's great, and it's time for, I think, brands to step up a little bit, and like we said before, either be louder about the things that they believe in so that they can connect with people that way, or establish where they're going to fit to bring that generation along.
That might be topic number 5. I think you just gave us there, which is, honestly, you're talking about things that, again, you see this on a macro level because you get a view to the trends before most people do, but everybody's thinking the same thing
Yeah,
and wondering how they get there.
yeah.
Um,
Maybe
let's,
we'll call them the elusive generation.
yeah, right. Well, that brings up another point. One of the things this other researcher was saying was that, like, if you meet Gen Z's criteria, if you meet their values, their authenticity, transparency, sustainability, all those values, um, that again is kind of table stakes. But once you've met all that, if they see a better deal, they're gone. Like
Mm,
like one all that work you've done trying to communicate and relate to them, who you are, who they are. Maybe we can have some business here. If it comes down to price, you better have that too.
yeah.
So let's
Although
talk about
my children are very happy to pay a lot of money for things that they love. I'll say that. But that's just
yeah,
personal
good for
experience.
you. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the green flags, how to win loyalty. What are some of those items that can establish a bond and kind of redirect what otherwise might be ill feelings? And again, if you don't mind, I'll just cherry pick a handful of stats here. 43% of Gen Z show their loyalty to a brand by having the brand's app downloaded. This signifies the importance of delivering high quality apps to keep this generation immersed and loyal in a brand. So just the act of downloading an app is a show of sorts of loyalty. It means that you've decided to bond with that brand somehow. That's a
Oh,
that's a
yeah,
big deal. I mean,
yeah,
just the act of it.
I completely agree with that. And doing things like you said, shopping across a lot of different places and looking at different brands and things like that. Like, when you pull people into an app experience, especially if it is very immersive and a very, pleasant and enriching shopping experience, then I think that, it's one of those things that's kind of those, um, intangibles a bit, but it is about like wrapping your app, like not making your app transactional either, like making
Right.
it someplace that those shoppers want to go and spend some time researching or discovering and all of that.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything now because I want to ponder it. That's such an important point. Okay. Having said that, 27% say offering memorable experiences like personalized services or events can help the situation. 23% said being iconic and relatable on social media. Can you just tell me what that means?
I think, to me, that means, we talked about this not being the silent generation, that they, are out there posting or snapping, every other minute, it seems like. And so I think when you have brands who are doing a great job of building their, brand image themselves, and then you have this generation that wants to be associated with that brand, the consumer gets a little bit, I think, of, I don't know, credibility or influence themselves, even being associated with that brand. Snapping yourself at the store, or posting a TikTok from, wearing a certain piece of clothing or something like that. I mean, we see this generation definitely doing this. We also see them going, and I keep coming back to this, but I think it's so important. We also see them, you know, pulling away in droves from these brands who, you know, don't stand what they stand for, or something coming of
Yep.
light. I mean, just as soon as your brand is built up, it can pretty much crumble with the power of social media and the power of this generation.
You bet. I guess I was tripped up by the phrase being iconic, and I'm trying to be iconic my whole life, and
You are so
just thinking,
iconic,
I
Mike.
don't
I
I
mean,
don't know. You're being way too kind and losing credibility by the second
I
here.
really don't know how to be iconic
I
myself
don't
either,
either.
so it's fine.
But I need more Gen Zs around me to show me.
Yeah.
So, right. Let's see. 22% say they're more loyal to brands that use AI to improve the shopping experience. Shows an incredible awareness of the power of AI, by the way.
Yes. Oh,
Um,
yes. I mean, there's no behind the scenes AI anymore, especially with this generation. I mean, they just they know what it is. They know how to use it for schoolwork. They know how to use it for, just about everything. And
yep.
so they understand how brands are using it as well.
Um, let's see. So the last one here makes a lot of sense, but the fact that it's got such a high number there, 17% say collaborating with relatable influencers and celebrities. A really big deal. Really big deal. So much of the purchase decision right now is based on who else is validating it.
Yeah. And I think this goes back to, things being experiences and things like that with loyalty. Um, if you are a brand that partners with one of these influencers, and as a loyal customer, you get special access to, a line that this person is releasing, or Spotify is a great example. As a Spotify listener, I always get special access to tickets or access to a vinyl album that's come out from somebody I listen to a lot. So I mean, that just shows, how this idea of maintaining that customer relationship and building loyalty also, is so connected with those influencers or celebrities that people are spending their time with, and being aware of that in the population that you serve. And I think, now I'm giving brand advice, which I'm a product person, so that's this is not,
You
but
still have a lot to say there that's got a lot of validity. So I'm going to give you
oh,
that.
thank you. But I also do think, from a brand standpoint, but being very secure and talking about your values a lot, and then associating yourself with people and influencers who share those values. Like, I mean, I think that those are ways to bring those types of things together, rather than just looking at, you know, who can, talk about your new makeup line on TikTok or
Right,
something. Like,
right.
I just goes, I think we've seen this happen. I feel like it evolves in months, not years anymore.
Oh yeah.
And being really thoughtful about, who they associate themselves with.
It's a huge deal. As you can see, I mean, really, we've touched on the tip of the iceberg. Well, we've touched on the tips of about five icebergs by my count right now. So there's a lot more that I hope we can wrangle ourselves into your schedule to discuss, because this is fascinating. But perhaps just to be kind to your schedule, I should just say thank you.
Oh, well, you're
Um,
welcome. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
it's a lot of fun. I first of all, you're just great fun, and a lot of fun to talk to, and this is just really interesting. But I think, beyond what it does for me, I think people who listen to and read Customer Land are all concerned with these topics. This
Yeah.
is everything we've talked about is a direct hit on the key, friction points and unknowns of the moment. So it's great stuff. With that, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. And yeah, well, I'll see you again next month.
All right. I know. Same time, same channel.